This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Tracking capabilities of the DJI Mini 2. This is something that many of you have requested. No doubt about that. And I bet many of you are eagerly waiting for DJI to release the SDK so third-party apps can pick up where DJI has decided not to support the Mini 2. Unfortunately, there are no planned releases of the SDK update from DJI. At least if you look into the roadmap of the SDK, there are no visible signs that this is going to happen anytime soon. A while back, I showed you that you actually don't need active track. You can fly the drone manually and get results that are easily as good, if not even better, what you can get with active track. But this was of course an external object, and that makes it a lot easier when you could just sit on your butt somewhere and concentrate on the sticks, getting the framing completely correct. And of course many of you drop comments below the video that you can't do this if you're riding a bike, you can't do this if you're riding a motorcycle, etc. And of course that is true. Unless you have a secret weapon like me, which is the electric unicycle. So in this video, I will show you a few examples how you can track yourself if you master the art of riding the electric unicycle. Make sure to watch the video to the end because I've included a tip that you probably want to know before you start filming yourself with your drone. Welcome to another video. I'm Henrik Olsen, and if you want to learn how to make better videos with your drone and camera in general, and learn how to film yourself if you can ride the electric unicycles, then consider subscribing to my weekly tips, tests and tutorials. When I travel down south to visit my father, we often go on bike trips, and in this case I was actually joined by my son. So we were out taking a nice evening ride, and sometimes we are chasing stuff in the area that is kind of unique. And this trip was no exception, as we wanted to go and see the Orby farm potato fields that were laid out with razor sharp precision with machinery assisted with GPS, creating some stunning rows or patterns directly in the dirt where they put in the potatoes. And of course I brought the Mini 2 so I could film a little bit of this spectacular view and at the same time get a glimpse of these really nice rapeseed fields that are flowering right now. Look at this landscape. It's absolutely beautiful with the blue sky, the wind turbines and the rapeseed fields. And now you're probably wondering, why is there a tree in the middle of the field? That is kind of inconvenient. These trees are really old. Some of them are more than 100 years old. The farmer is not allowed to cut them down unless they are deceased. So of course I was messing around with doing a little bit of a point of interest here just to film this tree in the middle of the field that was sort of interrupting or uprupting this nice pattern below. I was riding this trip on my electric unicycle, so on the way back I decided to make a few clips that will show you that it's actually possible to film yourself if you're riding on an electric unicycle. And the reason why this is possible is of course you have your hands free, you don't have any handle that you need to control while you are flying. This might change in the future if support was added for this new, what is it called, a one-hand controller from DJI that we saw delivered with the FPV drone. But that's a different story. So in the first scene here, I simply positioned the drone to follow me while I'm catching up to my father and son that is further ahead down the road. So I positioned the drone here nicely, and then I will start riding my electric unicycle once it's in position. And you might notice that these branches on the left side is kind of getting a little bit close to my taste. And as there's no sensors on the Mini 2, there is a chance that you might end into big troubles crashing the drone if you're not paying 100% attention. But as you can see, it follows nicely along. I'm trying to adjust the speed so it will, oh, these trees are getting close. It didn't seem that close when I was doing this. So of course I have to do a correction and I continue to follow myself. And of course this needs some practice to be able to pull it off perfectly smooth. This is, by the way, Orby farm that is in the back. This is the farm that sort of controls all the fields around this area. And for those of you that have seen the castle that I sometimes film, this is what is located inside in the middle of the forest. Why do we fly DJI drones? That's because they're easy to operate and have a great camera. But do you understand how to turn the footage that you are recording into a compelling video? You need to realize a drone is just a camera in the sky. But it takes a little bit more understanding to turn this into a story. This is why I recommend a course by Randy Allen called How to Make Exciting Travel Videos. Travel Filmmaking for Beginners. I found this course on Skillshare, which is also the sponsor of this video. It's a really good course that's easy to understand and will take you through the basics how you compose a really compelling travel video. If you don't know Skillshare, that's an online learning community that, much like Netflix, through a low annual subscription offers you access to more than 20,000 courses. But the best part is you can actually test this out for free. The first 1,000 people who use the link in my description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare Premium. Let's get back to the video and do some manual parallel tracking. So now I'm heading back to attempt to do some parallel tracking. This is where the tracking capabilities really come in handy. And this exercise is significantly more difficult because it's way more sensitive to get the speed right. So I'm putting the drone in position here, and then I'm trying to sort of match the speed that I'm riding. And one thing that of course you need to be aware of is that the drone needs to be aligned perpendicular to the road, so you fly perfectly sideways. And I was a little bit too close to myself, so I decided to move a little bit away. And now it's syncing up quite nicely, but I'm also riding fairly slow. So I decided to move a little bit back here to increase the distance to me. I will make it a little bit easier and make the scene a little bit more appealing. So I position the drone again. So we're ready for another attempt. So we're into the frame here, start moving the drone. So right now the timing is okay. So I'm starting to move the drone and trying to get the sense of the me inside the frame while I'm riding. And I have to adjust the speed all the time to make sure that I try to keep myself in the center of the frame. I decided to give it another attempt because I was not happy with the timing. And you can see this time around, it's actually succeeded significantly better. One thing that I know DJI drones have a very hard time doing, and that is tracking you when it's positioned in front of you and it has to back away and keep its position. And this is of course not easy when it's automated, but it is fairly easy when you do it when you fly it manually. You just need to be aware that the controls are reversed, and because the controls are reversed, you need to pull the stick towards the obstacle that you are colliding to avoid it. That's something you really need to be aware of, otherwise you will simply magnify the movement and crash into the obstacle. So now it was time to catch up with my father and son, so I will simply just fly the drone so it follows me from behind. Of course, this would be very, very difficult to do if you're on a bicycle or if you are riding a motorcycle or anything else where you need your hands as part of the steering. But this could of course be done if you're a passenger in a car. The reason why this was even possible is because I'm riding on a flat surface, so I don't need to concentrate basically on the surface that I'm riding, because that could cause a lot of issues if I had to concentrate about that. This is definitely not something that I would recommend that you do in the forest. I didn't have much battery left, but I was determined to show one final thing on this video, and this is one of these nice top-down tracking images that you often see in movies. And of course this is also possible to do with this technique. You simply launch the drone and then you position it over the road and then wait for the objects to go inside the frame, including myself, and then simply fly the drone along. And this is much easier to do because it's not so sensitive to the speed of the objects that are inside the frame. This video was not planned when I was out there, so I did only bring one battery. The idea was to go and film these potato fields, so this was basically all that I got during this trip. As you can see from this example, they are far from being perfect, but using active track on some of the bigger DJI drones does also not produce a perfect result. And you will probably, by a little bit of practice, be able to pull off some really exciting stuff if you put your mind to it. So I highly encourage you to go out, do some flying, and get back into the Tech Drone Media Facebook group and show you the result. And if you're not already a member of that group, you should definitely consider becoming, as I will leave a link in the description below. If you stuck with me to the end of this video, then drop down to the comment section and simply just say hi. I really like to know how many of you that I have kept watching during this video. In the beginning, I promised you a tip. that is worth knowing if you're going to experiment with filming yourself. Especially if you are riding as a passenger inside a car operating the drone, or if you're riding electric unicycle like I do. This is something you need to be aware of. The takeoff position and the maximum distance of the drone. Because I ran into a sort of a funny situation because I set the maximum range of the drone to 800 meters. So once the drone reaches its maximum distance, of course it stops. So when I was riding along trying to synchronize the speed and film myself, the drone suddenly stopped and I couldn't make it move. And this was of course because it has reached the maximum distance. So this is definitely something that you need to be aware of if you are messing around with this, filming yourself or larger distances. I hope you liked this video. If you did, then feel free to give it a like. If you didn't like it, feel free to press the dislike button twice. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you around.